Hey folks, how you doing? Okay, good to see you. Good to talk to you. uh, this video is about Hetep, Hetep, Hetep. Okay, it Hetep has to do with peace, like resting. It has to do with offering. Offering, I would say, is about probably the main thing when it comes to Hetep. So Hetep is associated with the offering table. The table with all the food and whatnot heaped up on it. A mountain of food on the offering table. It tells a story. That mountain of food tells us something. Okay. And offering is associated with causality. It causes things to happen. Okay. Once the offering is made. Okay. Thing is, well, what do we offer up? You know, well, on the offering tables, we see food. Well, in the ancient times, or at least there in the temples and whatnot, where offerings were made, they would have a cow's head or a bull's head, the foreleg of the animal. You know, they have other animals there, and there would be plants and so forth and so on. All these on the offering table. But all these things had meaning, more to it than what meets the eye when it comes to these offerings. But these offerings then were foods that people loved. So, okay, then they're offering up foods that they love. But that's not the whole of the story, you see. Because when we get into Hetep, peace and so forth and so on, and rest, heaven, then we got to offer up more than the foods that we like. But these foods are representative of things in us that we love, such as habits. The things that we love to do that are not good for us. But we love them, even though the doctor tells us, oh, stop doing this, stop doing that. We find it very, very hard to stop because we love what we're doing. So really, when we give them up, we've made a sacrifice because we've gave up something that we love. Okay. Now, when we go to the, we can go briefly to the Hebrew tradition, where the patriarch Abraham, the name was Abraham, I believe. But anyway, he was told to sacrifice his son. The Lord told him to sacrifice his son. What? His beloved son? He was offering up something that he loved. Okay. And what we love turns out to be our personality traits. We love them dearly. We believe that we are them, the personality traits, and we don't want to get rid of them, just like Abraham didn't want to get rid of his son But he was willing to do it. But the Lord said, okay, that's all right, let him live. Something like that. But we don't let those personality traits live if they're bad for us. You see? The Hebrew tradition just put it a little different than what I'm putting it because Abraham didn't kill his son. Okay. Or did he? You see? There was a transformation where the son became Abraham or Abraham became the son. Okay? Other words, Abraham got rid of the bad traits. Okay. Then this is what we must do. We must get rid of the bad trait. And that bad trait, the energy of that trait, the power and energy, the passions that supported that trait, becomes with us. The trait's gone, but that energy that supported that trait is still with us. Okay? But we must do something with it, or either to go back to bad use. You got to use that energy. Okay. So now, we see here now that the offering table, okay, with all the food heaped up on it, represents bad traits, things that we love. The bad traits. And we've got to get rid of them. And this is indeed a sacrifice. Because people are willing to fight for their personality traits. They're willing to fight for their bad habits. When it comes to a commercial about smoking, which is a habit people have, but the person in the trait had a black eye. They were asked to give up smoking. They said they'd rather fight than to give up what they love. Evidently, that person was fighting a losing battle, which traits are harmful to us, these bad traits. That person had a black eye, meaning that the trait's bad for you. You know? But people will fight for and die for their traits. The doctor tell them, hey, look, you stop doing this, stop doing that, or you're going to die. The person, as soon as he leaves the doctor's office, he's participating in that bad trait. He'd rather die than give it up. Okay. So it's not easy. And this is what the offering table is about. It's telling us that you got to give up those traits. This is Hetep. If you want to reach Hetep, that state of being like the Garden of Eden, something like that, then you've got to give up the bad traits. Yes, we have to give them up. So we have to make the sacrifice to give up what we love, to give up those things that at one time we might even have thought were good for us. You love those things. But you got to give them up. You see. So this gets us into funeral offerings for dead traits. Sounds strange? A funeral offering for a dead trait? Well, yeah. Because when we give that trait up, it is like dead. Okay. But the energy that supported that trait is still with us. And we even feel better. We got all this energy in us now because we have given up a bad trait. But you can't let the energy just linger around, or you wind up going to another bad trait. You know, when you feel kind of good, you feel like doing things. You feel like getting involved. You get on the phone and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. You know what I mean? Oh, I feel like doing this. I feel like doing that because you got a burst of energy. Well, that's what you get from when you're giving up a trait. Okay? But you got to sublimate that energy, raise it to a higher level of calling. And this is where the Hetep comes in. Okay. And this is where your peace and rest comes in. Okay. With this peace and rest, knowledge rises up. The passions that supported the trait, while supporting the trait, they suppress knowledge. Passions suppress knowledge. Okay. But once the trait is gone, we must use that passion for a higher level of calling. This is what Hetep is about. The path to Hetep is offering, sacrifice. We must die to the things of this earth. That is the earthly living, the personality, the bad traits. We must give them up. We must die to the things of this earth. Those things that satisfied the flesh body so much, that were bad for us. So now we see something about the offering table, what it really means. The items on the offering table represent bad traits. The traits that are bad for us that we love so much. They must be offered up. You see. Now, people are misguided when they say, well, yeah, I'll give this or I'll give this. So they get an old pair of shoes, they get an old pair of pants, they get some money, $5, $20, $100. You know what I mean? They're giving it to somebody. Well, okay, fine if you want to give somebody something. But that's not the idea of this offering table. The true offering, okay, is to relieve people of their oppressions. People oppress themselves. Okay. To free oneself from oppression, to his own oppression, to free oneself from turning his consciousness against himself. Because that's what you're doing when you practice the bad traits. You're turning your consciousness against yourself, or ourself. So this requires constant practice. Oh, this is religion. Or this is mythology. It requires constant practice, like the yoga folks do. They are actually practicing what we might call spiritualism, or we might call religion. It calls for practice, and it calls for constant offerings, too. That is, offering up our traits, you see. And this offering up, the dead trait, is a funeral offering, because the trait is now dead. We're not involved in that trait anymore. So we offer it up so that we can get that energy that supported it. So it's offering up a dead trait. Actually, it's the energy that supported it that we sublimate so that we can raise that energy or raise ourselves to a higher level of becoming. That's what the offering table is about. That's what Hetep is about. Okay, folks, have a good one, and I'll be back with you soon. All right, bye.